สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ Welcome to Insomnia Part 2. If you haven't, please be sure to check out Part 1 because there, in the previous video, we laid the foundations for this topic and we discussed some of the psychological reasons behind insomnia or difficulty sleeping at night. In other words, why somebody struggles to fall asleep in each and every night. And there we mentioned that if you really think about it, the moment when somebody actually or finally falls asleep is the moment when they stop trying to. They simply stop trying to force themselves to fall asleep. They simply stop trying to force their mind to stop thinking, to stop worrying about the future, or to stop thinking about the past, or to stop imagining about this or that, or whatever it is that is occupying their mind as they lie in their bed. And once they stop trying to force it, once they stop trying to control it, they naturally relax into a restful state and they drift off into sleep. It's really as simple as that. So in part 2, when we talk about how to overcome insomnia, or some of the tips that we can begin to use to apply in our life, I think it is helpful to make it as simple as possible. And therefore, I want to begin by presenting this analogy or give the example of a swimming lesson. Think of somebody who's learning how to swim. One of the first things that they have to learn to do in order to be able to swim is learn how to keep themselves afloat in the water. Keep their head afloat in the water. And you see, our natural instinct when we're, let's say, in the water where our feet can no longer touch the bottom for the first time, we naturally tense up, our muscles tighten up, and we try to struggle and scramble for safety. We struggle against the water to keep our head afloat. Our muscles tighten up, we breathe faster, trying to grasp for air, and in doing so, ironically, we will more likely drown. But see, somebody who knows how to swim knows how to naturally relax into the water. You notice that? And they're able to keep their head afloat and keep paddling to keep their head afloat, right? So the reason I start off with this example or this analogy is because if you think about how most of us live through life and conduct ourselves in each and every day as we go through life, everything is always about control. You always want to control everything in your life. And control can come in very, very subtle ways, sneaky ways. Even predicting how you're going to get to work in the morning, how long it's going to take, right? Whether or not you can avoid the traffic jam, whether or not the trains are going to be crowded. Even these things, even predicting when you're going to arrive at your workplace or to your appointment or to your meeting, even that is a form of wanting control. You see, the human mind, the human psyche always wants to be able to predict and feel that it knows and feels that it can control. But this isn't really the process of how life works if you think about it. And I borrow these philosophical concepts from many, many teachings like the Tao Te Ching, Wu Wei as they call it, effortless action, roughly translated as effortless action. But there are many, many other teachers who speak about similar things. But what I'm trying to say is, we live life as if we are up against nature, up against reality, or at odds against reality. And we therefore live in this kind of survival mode where we always have to control everything. But that isn't really the process of how life works in and of itself, if you ask the wise teachers. So where am I getting at here? The point is, once you learn to give up control, you will have true control. And the heart of overcoming insomnia is simply learning to have true control. Because the signature of insomnia is your mind is off worrying and trying to control everything in its overthinking patterns, in its brooding patterns, in its over-analytical desires, or the games that it plays, right? It takes a lot of control, true control, which is emotional self-control, in order to give up control. And you will be much more relaxed generally in how you conduct and live your life. And this will be translated to a much easier night as you try to unplug from the day and fall asleep. You see that? Don't push against reality. Flow with the process of life. But in order to be able to flow with the process of life, you must have a specific skill set. This skill set, you can think of it as emotional skill set. To be able to be aware of your emotions, to be able to cope with your emotions, to be able to tolerate your emotions, and therefore to not be afraid of your emotions. You see, the secret is simply this. We are never really afraid of any situation. You're not afraid of getting haunted by a ghost. You're not afraid of getting dumped by a partner. You're not afraid of losing your job. You're not afraid of the financial bankruptcy. You're not afraid of getting diagnosed with a serious health condition. You're not afraid of visiting the dentist's office. You're not afraid of flying on a plane. You're not afraid of going on a boat. You're not afraid of not being able to fall asleep. You're not afraid of your boss, your parents, society, judgments. What you're really only ever afraid of is your emotions that you predict you would create around that type of situation. And this is really the key to learning to overcome insomnia. It is about learning to thrive in life in general. It's about learning to take back your power and take back control and feel powerful. Because if you feel powerful, you wouldn't need to worry about tomorrow. You see what I mean? Because feeling powerful implies a unique skill set where you feel confident and competent in your ability to manage the day tomorrow, no matter what challenges it throws at you. And at the same time, you also feel confident and competent in your ability to be aware of, watch, observe, know, see, cope with, and tolerate and accept your emotions in the case where an undesired situation should really happen. Now, how does this relate to insomnia? Again, insomnia goes hand in hand with an overthinking mind, as we mentioned last time. So, let's use the help of an example. Let's say you're somebody who is stuck trying to fall asleep at night because you're worried about the presentation or the project at work tomorrow, because you've been newly assigned to a new project or a new task, or because you've newly switched companies or positions, and maybe you're not so familiar with the work culture of your new organization. Maybe you're not so familiar with the new project because it wasn't your specialty and you're learning new things on the job, on the go, or whatever it may be. So you sit there lying in bed up at night worrying about this. And now you're worried about, if I do a bad job, I'm not gonna get a promotion, or I'm gonna get fired, and I'm not gonna be able to feed my wife, my kids, my husband, my family. I'm not going to be able to take care of myself. I'm not going to be able to attract a partner. And now you're worried about relationships. And now your mind goes off, I'll never be successful in relationships. I'll never be successful in love. Because look at my past experiences. It's too late for me now. I'm too old. And then you're now thinking about how you stress often. And now look at my health. I always have health issues when I stress often. And now you're all over the place. But you see, none of this was ever about the situation that you were worried about. It was always about emotions, you see, because the feelings that are generated by this monkey mind that is going all over the place is feeling powerless, feeling disempowered, feeling out of control, feeling afraid of the emotions that you have, feeling fear. But being able to understand the root cause of those emotions or fears or the feelings that are generated even on a bodily level, right? It is a skill set that we can all learn to develop if we want to be skillful at surfing and managing and being a master over our own emotions. Because what these things really boil down to in this example is they really boil down to a limiting belief that generates a certain kind of thought pattern that produces an emotion. The limiting belief could be a fear of judgment. So in other words, maybe you're not really afraid of a new workplace, but what you're really afraid of is being judged that you're not good enough. You see that? That's the true limiting belief behind it. And if you cannot make these connections, then you're going to focus on the wrong place. And you're going to be reacting to your mind's turbulence. You're going to be reacting to the turbulent mind, trying to stop it, trying to force it, trying to control it. And again, the more you try to control it, the harder it is for you to fall asleep. You see what's going on here? So it always goes back to a simple skill set. You need to learn to thrive generally in life in order to truly overcome and combat insomnia. And what does thriving mean? Thriving means to feel empowered. As I mentioned, to feel empowered, to feel powerful, confident, and competent in your ability to handle tomorrow's problems, tomorrow's concerns, tomorrow's events and situations. Feeling competent and powerful and confident in being able to make peace with the past, accept the past, realizing that they no longer have power over you until you believe that it does. Making the connections between what you're worried about and the fear or the limiting belief behind it, which causes you to stir up a turbulent, disturbed mind and stir up emotions, which keeps you up lying awake at night. You notice that? So in the example of the workplace, maybe what it really was about was not really about adjusting to a new place, but really about fearing judgment. Because in your old workplace, you were one of the top performers, and you kind of held yourself to that standard in a kind of perfectionistic kind of way. You're holding yourself to very high, impossible standards, and sooner or later, you can't meet those standards because nobody's perfect. And then you judge yourself really harshly for it, which is why you lie awake worried at night. Or maybe it could be the issue of the partner, the girlfriend or boyfriend or wife or husband or whoever it is you're dating. And you're worried about what he or she thinks about you. You're worried about whether or not he or she will leave you. You're worried about if you said the right thing in a date earlier in the evening. You're worried about how you're going to be perceived by them. But really, what it really boils down to is a fear of judgment, a fear of losing them. But if you fear this, then by definition, you're giving your power away to something outside of yourself. And you will never solve the issue at the correct place. The key is to learn to take back power, to take back control, to see the tricks or the deceptions of your mind, and to be able to have a skill where you're able to sit mindfully and peacefully and watch what your mind does. Watch the thoughts that come up, the emotions that come up, the feelings that come up, and be able to tolerate it, to cope with it, and to teach yourself that those emotions, those thoughts, do not have power over you until you allow it to. This is empowering. And once you train yourself through practice, you will begin to see results. You'll see that it's just a thought. It's just an emotion. It's just a certain pattern. And you begin to make the connections between the patterns, the thoughts, and the emotions, and the limiting beliefs behind them. And you learn to question those beliefs. How legitimate are they? Where did I get them from? Is it serving me? Is it limiting me? Do I have to continue to hold on to this belief? What other evidence is there? If my partner leaves me, does it really truly mean that I'll never be able to find somebody else? If I don't do so well on the first project at a new workplace, am I really going to lose my job? If my coworker criticizes me or talks behind my back, or if my boss doesn't like me, is it really the end of the world? Am I really going to have a financial issue and therefore lose my wife and family just because of that? Or is it more about my own limiting beliefs, fears, and insecurities, which I can learn to overcome, which I can learn to work on? And this is the key to overcoming insomnia. I know this is a lot to take, but stick with me on this page, on this channel, and we'll grow together. We'll learn together, and we'll learn to take back our power and take back our control. Because the fact of the matter is, you are way more powerful than your wildest dreams. But you just don't believe it because you don't see it. Reality is not a problem of the issue that you're worried about. Reality is a problem of your perception of that situation. I hope this was valuable. I know it was a different take than usual on my episodes, but I want to present it through a different way. Go back to the analogy of swimming that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. It takes a lot of control to give up that thrashing in the water, that struggling in the water, that wanting control in the water. It takes a lot of self-control, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness to be able to relax in it and trust the process. And take back your power, take back your control, take back your self-worth. Okay, in the example of worrying about what your colleagues are going to think about you, what your boss is going to think about you, maybe you can challenge that limiting belief and say, is my self-worth really dependent on another person's opinion about me? Is it really dependent on my coworker's opinion of me? Is it really dependent upon whether or not I do an ultimately fantastic job on the project as I did on my previous ones? Is that really the case? Or is that really a standard that I impose on myself, unfairly to myself, because I've taken that from somewhere else? See? And as we grow in life, we learn to take responsibility, not for outside external circumstances, not for what happens to us, but for how we choose to respond. We take responsibility for our emotions. And to be able to take responsibility for your emotions, you must understand the connections between your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, and your beliefs behind it. And realize that you are always in control. You just didn't realize it beforehand. And again, that means to thrive in life. And I hope these examples can be relatable to you. I hope it sheds some light that insomnia is something that you can all learn to overcome. And I invite you to begin to do the practice and training with me. And value the process of learning. Value the process of growth. We're not going to get it perfect overnight, but we're going to learn with each and every step. There may be some setbacks, but keep at it. Stay focused on the bigger vision, the bigger objective, in learning how to thrive in life and learn to love your life and learn to take back power and control. And you will find that if you are struggling with insomnia, it will be a thing of the past sooner than you may realize. Okay? Leave me in the comments what you think. If you like the video, please share the video. Please give it a like. And if you think that somebody that you know could use something from this video, please share it with them. And I'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ